This podcast is brought to you by the Prospect Research Institute, where researchers come to learn, innovate, and connect.
People don't remember what you say, but they remember how they felt, right? So they will remember, even if they don't remember my words exactly. They remember that they felt welcome, that they felt like I was listening to their needs, I was trying to meet them. And this feeling will bring them back. Every time they have a research question, they have an information need. I think this is something that will bring them back to me.
Welcome to Prospect Research Chat Bites, a podcast by and for prospect research professionals. I'm Jennifer Filla. Today, I'm talking with Olesya Zaremba, Research Officer at Rotman Business School at University of Toronto. Hello, Olesya. Thank you for joining me today on Chat Bites.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Before we jump into how a reference librarian structures the interview with a patron, I'm wondering if you can step back a minute and share a little bit about your career so far.
Sure. So I am originally from Ukraine, and I have 2 bachelor's degrees in Ukraine in library science and business administration. And then in my early 20s, I won an Edmund Muskin Fellowship, which was run by American government and gave an opportunity for Ukrainian students to get a master's degree in US. So I did that, won the scholarship, went to USA and got a master's degree in library and information science from Catholic University of America. And while I was there, I did an internship at the World Bank. And after second year, they actually came up with a proposition of a job. So I stayed as a reference librarian at the World Bank for about 10 years. And I worked in 2 libraries. I worked at Sector and IT Resource Center, where you do lots of research on international development and different sectors, including health, nutrition, population, information technology, agriculture, water and sanitation. And then that information informs the bank strategy and their projects. And we go to the field to developing countries to help them to achieve certain results in those areas. And I also worked at the law library, where I did international legal research, which was also quite fascinating. So almost 10 years there, and then I moved to Canada. And in Canada, actually, the field of research fundraising, I discovered by accident. I saw a job, I saw an advertisement of research officer at the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, and I applied. And to my surprise, they actually called me for the interview. And that interview consisted of 2 parts. One was a regular interview where you talk to the board, and another one was doing real research. And when I did my research, they called me back and they said, "Oh my God, we are really impressed with how you approached the questions, the depth, sort of your way of thinking, where you went with it." And I got the job. So I spent 4 years at the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. And then I figured out I need to do second master's in information technology because it felt like technology is present everywhere. And the more you know about technology, the more competitive you are, better you are with the databases, and like everything in research and outside. So I started the degree and moved to University of Toronto. And at University of Toronto, I moved through several jobs working on administrative side, like organization of documentation, running research grants application, and end up now again as a prospect researcher at Rotman Business School, where I've been for more than a year.
Wow. So that is a long journey, but even at the very beginning, you had that soft heart for helping others, it sounds like, doing that initial research for the international programs.
Yeah, it was quite fascinating, right? Because their goal is like our dream is a world free of poverty. And like when you travel to the field, you travel to Vietnam or Thailand or other developing countries and you see how they live, you really feel like you can give back, right? Yeah, it's quite fascinating.
That's amazing. So you were able to travel.
Yeah, it's called
Wow.
missions. You go on mission and you educate librarians in the field. We also did video conferences, like before it became so sexy all over the world, like you wake up at 5 a.m. and you do it with Asia or something. We did that in early 2000, 2005, 6. Yep. No, it was great.
Wow. And then, so you have, if I understand, you have 2 master's degree, right?
Yes. I also have
And,
PhD in Ukrainian history, but I mean, probably
oh,
not relevant.
oh my goodness. And you told me you were pursuing a certificate in fundraising management from.
Yeah, because I feel like it's a good add value, given that now I'm in fundraising forever. Yeah.
So tell me, like, how are you layering in education in your career? Are you seeing those results from getting the
Oh, yes.
degrees? Oh,
Oh,
good.
yes. Yes. I feel like, first of all, you reformat your brain, right? From being like totally in humanities, going to IT field, you have to like broaden. You're reformatting your brain. It's really you, the amount of new neurons that are developing because of this is humongous. But also in terms of databases, right? How you run the reports, like what you can contribute to analytics, how well you understand. Even now, the artificial intelligence is coming our way, big data. How do you manage those? I feel a lot more like when I talk to prospect management team, to analytical team, like I feel very well. Like I position my department very well because I ask the intelligent questions which help us to move on.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful. And that's where we're headed. I mean, if the machine
Yeah.
can hunt and gather, then we have to do something else.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. It's
Wow.
like they were saying that the role of librarian was obsolete 20 years ago. Well, they're still around. So.
And so are movie theaters. They're still around.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, in your current position, what kind of interaction are you having with development officers asking for research? Do you have them submit a form? Do they send you an email? How does the process happen?
They send me an email most of the time, but very much after I read the email, very often I shoot back with an email saying, "Can we have 5 minutes conversation?" Yeah, initial request comes by email, but most of the time I need to follow up with more questions, like my reference interview mode
Got it.
need to be applied. Yeah.
That's what we're here to talk about today because I'm curious how similar it is. You've been a reference librarian and you've had that training. How similar is it to being a prospect researcher in a fundraising office?
It's pretty much the same. You feel like you're a reference librarian working in fundraising library, focusing on fundraising related subjects. Because you like your job is to satisfy informational needs, whatever they are, of your team in the field of fundraising. So it's pretty much the same. I try to, on the top of doing research, I try to be proactive. I try to always educate my fundraisers about what they can find on them, like by themselves, what sort of resources are available, what databases we have that I can use if they tell me exactly what they need. It's like I'm like a solo librarian pretty much in my department.
Neat. So, one of the things I learned when I started the Prospect Research Institute, when I was doing some surveying and interviews, is that when people hear prospect research as a term, they think of profiles. Like that was early on mostly the only thing we did. But as a solo researcher librarian in your fundraising office, you're doing way more than that. What other kinds of requests do you get?
I get all kinds of requests, but as I said, I'm also very proactive. In terms of requests, often I'll get a request about what's happening with such and such prospect in use. Do we know like what's happening with this one? Is there a company, okay, something youth related? That happens a lot. And actually I train my SDOs, my fundraisers to ask me those questions. I took me about half a year to instill sort of that confidence in them that there are other stuff than just profiles that I can do. So news alerts and informing them about what's happening. For instance, recently there was one of our prospects who joined the board, and I forwarded that notice to my fundraiser, and he said, "Fabulous! I was trying to reach that donor. They do not reply. Now I can congratulate them on this new board affiliation," and that would be a great opening line for our conversation. I also try to use my like technology knowledge, so I help with prospect management. I'm trying to make like I look at the reports of pipeline to see how many they have on each side of the fundraising circle, just to make sure if I need to add more prospects to whatever phase, or if I can help to move a prospect from cultivation to like deep cultivation. What can I do? I help with that. And also, I sit in the meetings with major gifts team. I insert myself also in communication teams. I want to know what's like keeps them up at night, right? For instance, communication team had a lot of transitioning, right? When the COVID started, everything went online in terms of events. We had our huge annual Reunite event online. First time, huge event, breakout rooms, more than 1,000 people. How do you do that? So what I'm doing, I've subscribed to lots of subject-related alerts, fundraising-related alerts, like marketing, and I help them. I'm like, here is a seminar you may want to attend. Here is an article about an event that happened at the university that 500 people attended. Maybe you want to learn from them, connect with them. I'm also trying to put myself like to add value to every department within my advancement team. And same with the stewardship, where they need any help with figuring out email, any help with figuring out who is in charge of foundation. Like, did the foundation change their address or something? They now think of me too. So I insert myself everywhere within my department, my services.
That's amazing. So, what I'm hearing is that you, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you are very open to your role. It's not one thing, it's to find information to support the fundraising efforts. And that could mean whatever it means that you see as a need or that you get asked as a need. Is that kind of your perspective?
Yeah, I don't do just reactive research. I'm very proactive. Also in finding new prospects. We are going into campaign soon, right? Kind of see who may be a good prospect for this upcoming campaign, like who is a good prospect for us now. I do lots of proactive work. I also educate my team about what research officers / reference librarian can do for them, because I think lots of them don't know how much I can do for them.
That's wonderful. That's refreshing. You get me excited all over again about the prospect research role.
I love it. I love my job. I love my job. I really think, and I can pretty much whatever idea comes to my mind, I can test it, right? I can bounce it back off my fundraisers. It's cool. Like, yeah.
So back to your reference librarian experience and training. Can you point out or give us a succinct version of what you learned and how that training could be applied to prospect research?
Okay, so there are several key things. The first one is you have to make sure that your fundraiser, whoever you're talking with, feels welcoming. So if it's an in-person interview, you maintain eye contact, all your body language is inviting and open. You are really showing that you are ready to actively listen to whatever your user is going to tell you. If it's on the phone, again, you kind of use the language which encourages them to open up, and you say, thank you very much for taking time to talk to me. I'm here to help you. How can I help? You have to make them feel welcome. That's number one. Number two, you get the general information and you get the overview of the problem, right? So you rephrase the question, you narrow it, or you make it broader. You're trying to figure out what the question is about. You're trying to clarify what exactly they want to find. Because very often what happens, the user himself cannot really distill that exact question that they're looking for. They have some vague idea, or they heard something, or there is only one thing they want to know about, but you can give them other ideas that can make the answer like richer and give them more relevant information to whatever they're looking for. So you gather the information from them about what they want, and then you narrow it down to sort of overview of the problem. Then you confirm the exact question, right? You talk back. So what are we looking at is the last 15 years of board engagement for so-and-so, correct? Right? So you need to make sure you're on the same page after you went through the eliciting that question. After that, you come up with your search results. You see what you can give to the user, what kind of information is available to answer their questions. And then you always follow up. You always follow up for feedback. You always follow up to make sure they're satisfied. You make sure they don't need like another part for this research, something else came up or didn't came up. You close the loop by really reassuring them that you are available whenever you need to move back to step number one of welcoming them for another question.
That makes a lot of sense. I heard you use the word question a lot of times.
Yes.
And then what I thought was really interesting about how you began was making the fundraiser feel comfortable. Why is that important? Why is that the number one thing that you need to do?
Well, you establish relationship, you establish almost like professional trust. So they come back to you every time they have a question when you are solo librarian in the department. So once you make them feel comfortable, I once attended a training where they said people don't remember what you say, but they remember how they felt, right? So they will remember, even if they don't remember my words exactly. They remember that they felt welcome, that they felt like I was listening to their needs, I was trying to meet them. And this feeling will bring them back. Every time they have a research question, they have an information need. I think this something that will bring them back to me.
It sounds like, too, if you build that trust, I know a lot of people have trouble with the feedback loop. So even when they follow up, they're not getting a response. But if you have the fundraiser feeling like you really want to help them in the beginning, maybe that will bring up the amount of times that they're willing to communicate with you as a follow-up.
That's for sure. And also they see results of my work, right? They see results of my recommendations. I mean, some things came to success because of information I provided. So I already have some success tracks that are helping me to feel like a part of the team and them seeking my services.
And then sometimes too, maybe if they've had a great success, they're either running to tell you or they're really busy, but once you do that follow-up request, how did it go? They're very happy to share what happened.
Yes, that's true, actually. Yeah, that's true.
Very interesting. I just love that it starts with building that rapport and making them feel listened to. That's amazing.
Yeah, they feel like I want them to feel I'm there for them. Whatever keeps them up at night, I will try to help them.
So before I let you go, I'm wondering if you have a top resource or two for prospect researchers who want to get better at this communication, that want to be better reference librarians for their fundraising offices.
Yes, at my master's degree, we actually devoted the whole semester of studying all the peculiarities of the reference services. But if I would highlight 3 top areas that I would recommend for prospect researchers to take a look at when they provide their services, that would be question types. As you were saying, I use the word question a lot, right? You really need to master different type of questions, like open-ended questions. Please tell me more about the subject. Closed or clarifying questions. What have you already found? Is it what you are looking for? Yes or no? Different type of questions. You really have to have yourself familiarized with that. One of the books is Brinkman and Quayle from 2008. It's called Interviews, Learning the Craft of Qualitative Research Interviewing. It's a really great book that has lots of different interviews, like in a table form, and explains how they can be used. I think that's something that really every prospect researcher should take a look at. Another one is probing. Probing is a really great, it's like the settled tool, but it helps. It helps to manage interviews, answers, and questions, and they really help sometimes to sort of turn the conversation in the right direction. My favorite one, which is the hardest one to master, is a silent probe, right? When you give a room to a user, you're silent, and by silence, you're encouraging them to talk about the question they're asking, but like you're not silent enough to show that you are not listening. So probing is another one. And reference interview itself. For reference interview itself, just to learn about the parts of the reference interview and how it works, because like when you put all 3 together, you will be unstoppable. And for reference interview, I would recommend an article called Reference Interviews, Getting Things Right, from Reference Librarian, Volume 51, Number 1, by Kunin and Levine. And for probing, I would recommend The Art of Hearing by Herbert Rubin and Irene Rubin. It's a family, a couple, written in 2012. So those 3, reference interview, probing, and question types, would be really great tools to have under your belt when you start as a prospect researcher.
Those are great ideas. I was so keen to talk to you about this because it's an area I haven't explored, and I'm really excited. Thank you so much for sharing with me today.
Thank you.
That was Olesya Zaremba, Research Officer at Rotman Business School at University of Toronto. The field of prospect research has always attracted talented librarians, and now we know why. As Olesya revealed, prospect researchers are the librarians of the fundraising office. So the next time your development officer patron reaches out, be sure she feels like you are genuinely listening and want to support her success. Hey, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come check out the Prospect Research Institute's learning community. It's a membership community with powerful resources, great discussions, and comprehensive courses. Check it out at member.prospectresearchinstitute.org. I'd love to have you join me as a member of the learning community. See you there.